Hello, I'm John Kneebone and welcome to Mainline Baits Carp Fishing TV and another how-to video where we take a look at different rigs, presentations and give you a simple step-by-step guide that you can follow to put these presentations together. Today we're taking a look at another rig, and it's a rig that featured in our first how-to video, how to put together a PVA stick, and that is the simple Balanced Wafter rig. So let's get started. I'm going to be using a curved shank hook in size 6 that'll have just the right amount of weight to balance out the hook bait. The hook link is going to be made from a nice soft coated braid like this one. To help the hook flip, I'm going to use a small piece of shrink tube to make a kicker. Alternatively, you can use a pre-formed kicker. I'm a big fan of using anti-tangle sleeves to help prevent tangles, and I'm going to be using one here. A small piece of silicone tubing will be used to position the exit point of the hair. So okay, you're probably wondering why I'm showing you some lead core now, and that's because I like to take a little bit of the wire insert, I wrap that around my hook link, and that gives me something to use as a grip for a small piece of putty, and you'll see this further on in the video. You'll also need some scissors and a standard boilie bait needle for attaching the hook bait. I've got a couple of pulley tools like this for straightening out the hook link and pulling down the knots. To hold the hook bait on the hair, we'll need a simple hair stop. And now for the all important hook bait. I'm going to use a Balanced Wafter here in the 15mm size, and this one is the high leakage pineapple flavour. The first thing I've done to start the rig is remove around about 5 inches, 10 to 12 centimeters of the outer coating of the hook link, and that's to expose the soft inner braid. We're now going to make our hair loop in this soft section of the braid, so it's just a simple overhand loop knot. Now to tie these little fiddly knots, I always like to use a baiting needle, just sliding it through the loop, catching the other loop to pull it through. I just find that the easiest way, but if you've got any little tricks or tips for tying knots or any rig advice at all, feel free to write that in the comments box below. Right, with our hair loop created, we're just going to neaten that off by trimming off the tag end. Okay, that's the hair loop complete. And now for the all important hook bait, and like I say, we're using a 15mm Balanced Wafter here today. Simply take one of your hook baits and push your baiting needle through the centre of that bait. You can now hook that onto the hair loop we created earlier. Slide the hook bait onto the hair. Now we're using Balanced Wafters today, but you can also use our pastel barrel wafters or our cork dust wafters with this rig. Now take one of the hair stops, push that into the loop, tighten down, and our hook bait is now secure on the hair and ready to go. And now we can choose our length of hook link. I want a rig around about 7 inches long, so I'm pulling off about 8-9 inches of hook link to allow for the knots that we need to tie later. Take your scissors and cut that piece of braid away from the spool. Okay, now for the next step. We need to take the silicone tubing and just cut away a tiny little piece of that tubing, only around 3-4mm long. Then taking that piece of silicone, thread that onto your hook link like so. Only need to thread that down around about 1 inch or so that we can then take our hook and just carefully push the point down into that silicone so that we can now thread that around the bend of the hook. And what we're doing now is we're looking to position this piece of silicone where we want our hair to exit from the hook. So pull the hook link through so that the hook bait comes up, and this is why we put the hook bait on first. And as you can see, I've got that little piece of silicone down near just where the bend of the hook starts, so the hair is now exiting opposite the point of the hook. So now we need to tie on the hook, so take the tag end of your hook link, pass that through the back of the eye on the hook, and wrap the hook link down the shank of the hook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Take your tag end, go back through the back of the eye again, thread that down, pull it tight, and there you go, the hook is now securely in position on the hook link. As you can see, this leaves about 1 centimetre of soft uncoated braid near the hook to increase its movement and ability to turn quickly. We now need to create our kicker using the shrink tube. So I'm just going to cut away a piece of shrink tubing round about 1 centimetre long, take our hook link, thread that through the centre of the shrink tube, and the purpose of this shrink tubing is just to help that hook flip over really quickly under investigation of feeding fish. So there we go, we've slid that down onto the eye of the hook and we're ready for the next step. This is where we're going to incorporate our anti-tangle sleeve by adding it to the hook link. So simply take hook link, thread it through the narrow end of the anti-tangle sleeve like so, and we're now ready to tie a knot at the end of the hook link. And this knot is going to be a figure of 8 loop knot. So make a loop in the end of the hook link, fold that back over itself and then under itself like so. And as I showed you earlier, I like to use a baiting needle for these sort of fiddly small knots. Just thread that through the double loop, hook on the initial loop and pull that back through. And as you can see, we've made a nice neat figure of 8 loop knot. Lubricate the knot with a little saliva and then take your pulley tool, thread that into the loop and pull down the knot to tighten with steady pressure. Now take your scissors and just simply trim off that tag end just to tidy up that knot. And we can now take the anti-tangle sleeve that we thread onto the hook link earlier, slide that up onto the knot, over the knot, and we've now got a nice neat loop section there at the end of the hook link for attaching it to a terminal tackle. You'll now need to take the piece of inner leg cord wire, take your hook link, and where the soft section of hook link meets the coated section of hook link, begin to wrap the wire around the hook link. Take it around a few times, just take your time. If the loops are a little bit wide apart, just slide them up together, just so you've got a nice neat wrap of the wire. Then simply snap off any excess, like so, one end, then the other end. And now we've got a nice neat little coil of wire there around the end of the hook link. Right, now you can take your putty and just pull away a little piece like so. And if you just roll that between your finger and thumb, that'll make it a lot more pliable. Now taking your hook link, add that putty to the lead wire, and that lead wire will just secure that putty in place. It will stop it sliding down your hook link or falling off. Now I've used a little bit too much there, so I'm just going to remove some of the excess, and now I can just roll that between my finger and thumb, moulding it into a barrel like shape, nice and neat. And there we go, that's the putty in position. We can now steam down the shrink tubing to a more aggressive angle like this, and that's it. Our wafter rig is complete and ready to go. One of the key elements is the piece of putty that we've added so close to the eye of the hook. The reason for that is it adds a little bit more weight to this section of the hook link, which is going to help that hook flip over really quickly and grab a good strong hook hold. At the other end of the rig, the anti-tangle sleeve increases the performance of what is an extremely simple but effective presentation. In the water, we can see that the weight of the hook is just enough to negate that little bit of buoyancy contained within the balanced wafter. Now over time, that balanced wafter will take on water and slowly get closer and closer to the bottom, and the hook will lay flat with the hook bait poised, ready to react extremely quickly to the investigation of feeding fish. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit that notification button so you know when the next video is coming out. If you don't subscribe to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button below. We'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to see more videos about wafter rigs and different presentations, I'll leave a link to those videos over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.